What's going on, everybody? Shonen Express here, coming to you with another weekly Shonen Jump newsletter. I'm super excited to get into this. It's been another crazy week, so let's just jump right in. So first of all, the cover for the magazine this week, as well as the new manga starting this week, was Witch Watch. This manga is written and illustrated by the same mangaka who did Sket Dance, which is a super popular, gag manga, or was a super popular gag manga, running in Shonen Jump for quite some time. I didn't personally read Sket Dance, so I don't know, if it's that great, but it does seem like it was quite popular, and so it's good to see mangaka with that kind of pedigree come back and do something new and try to shake up the industry once again. So I'm happy to see him. But getting into this chapter, I really liked Morihito, the main guy, the ogre. He's really interesting to me. I love the conversation he has with his dad about how he let the bullies just kind of hurt him because he's afraid to hurt them. And we see later, his reluctance to hit them is from him lashing out at them once before and really hurting somebody. And so I liked his reluctance there, and I loved his dad's speech of if you don't use your strength ever, you'll lose the ability to use it when you need it. And I thought that was really interesting, and I liked his dad too. I thought that there's interesting stuff to be learned there, but I think his dad's probably gonna disappear from the picture from now on. But all things considered, I did like it quite a bit. I also loved the concept of ogres. So I guess they're half ox, half tiger familiars that were given human characteristics by being familiars with witches. And if he doesn't obey the witch's orders, he'll turn into this half tiger, half ox monstrosity. I love the picture that they drew for this. It was really funny. So that was super funny. I really liked that, and I liked meeting Nico, the witch. I thought she was really interesting. I love that flying in, she's like, oh, we're going to be living together. It's going to be so romantic. I bet you, the whole chapter, she's having these, oh, I bet you he's thinking this way about me thoughts, and, he's not at all. But so I think that there's going to be some good comedy there, too. But I really liked her. And the first thing she does, of course, is, bust through the window, right? Destroying the window, and she has to fix it later by destroying his favorite mug, which was funny. It's a lot of interesting, kind of funny things going on there. So I like that. But on top of that, we get, she turns herself into paper, right? Which was funny, and it was actually pretty cool visually to see, that transition. And she gets taken by the wind and falls in this crack, and it's just, she seems very reckless, and so I'm very interested to see kind of where we go, what kind of antics Nico gets herself into, and how Morihito has to get her out of those. I also loved learning, this is kind of going back to more Morihito stuff, but he was my favorite part of this chapter, but going back to this ogre style of martial art that he had to learn, that sounds really cool. I'm sure we'll see more of it as this manga goes on, but I liked that a lot. And then when he uses it, that was a beautiful illustration with the ogre in the background, and he's charging up his fist. That was gorgeous to look at. So the art was on point for sure this chapter. And then at the end, we find out that it's prophesied that something bad will happen to Nico, and it's going to be Morihito's job to watch over her and try to avert that bad thing, even though they don't know what it is. So, all things considered, I thought this chapter was pretty good. I liked this chapter for sure. And I'm excited to see what Witch Watch has for us going forward. As far as things ending, we did have nothing end. there were no ending manga in the magazine this week, which is good because honestly I think at this point the magazine needs to keep as many manga running in it as it can. It's running out of these long running staple series, so it needs to make some more. So I think it needs to keep everything it's got going in the magazine right now. On break this week was Jujutsu Kaisen. That did not produce a chapter. Now I don't know if you guys know, please leave it down in the comment section, but I don't know if something happened, if the mangaka, if she got sick or wasn't able to produce a chapter this week, but it was scheduled to come out this week, but it did not. So I'm interested to see what you guys know about that. If you guys leave down in the comment section, please let me know what happened with Jujutsu Kaisen this week. But it was on break this week nonetheless. And like I said, last chapter changed everything. So it's okay to take a little breather, I think. So that'll be okay. And there were no specials in the magazine this week. So nothing to really report there. Which leads us to my highlights, and I got 6 highlights for you once again this week. So we'll start this week with One Piece. One Piece was another great chapter, half battle chapter, half kind of exposition with CP0. But what I really liked about this chapter was mostly the battle part. So we see Luffy is like deflated after really punching Kaido. Like, he did some work on Kaido, which is super cool to see. But Luffy's like super deflated. He's definitely out at this point. And Zoro's trying to pick him up and get him out of the way of stuff. Kaido's Dragon Twister attack, and he does it like twice, like the weaker version and the stronger one. That was really cool. And then Zoro hits him back with a Dragon Twister. That was super cool too. And he cuts Kaido. Now, I feel like a lot of people are going to say that it's like Enma, the sword itself is what's allowing Zoro to do this. But guys, I really think that Zoro is this strong. I would like to make a case that Zoro is this strong. This is the time for Zoro to show he's got what it takes to be one of the strongest people in the One Piece world. And this was an example of that. He was able to cut Kaido with Enma, of course, but he was still able to cut Kaido, and I still think that's really, really impressive. And then, of course, we get to see CP0, that they're still there in Wano, and they are observing the battle. And, of course, they want the pirates to just take each other out, which makes sense for them. But I like that they said this battle is going to come down to the subordinates, right? So are the Tobi Roppo going to be able to stand, or the officers of the Beast Pirates going to be able to make it, or are the Alliance Pirates going to be able to take them out? And that's going to decide a lot of what's going to go on with this battle. If there's a chance at all of them to win, it's going to come down to the peripheral characters. And so I for one am super excited to get into seeing the fights that are going on there, specifically Sasaki versus Frankie. I so want to see that. Frankie is my favorite Straw Hat, and Sasaki is my favorite Tobi Roppo, as well as Triceratops are my favorite dinosaur. So a lot of my favorites going on in that battle. I really want to see that go down. But I think we're going to get to see some of these peripheral battles, and I'm very excited to see that. And also, I hate when Oda does this, but hopefully next week this will be resolved. We get to see a silhouette of Kaido's man-beast form, which we haven't seen at all before. I always kind of was wondering if the form he usually is in is like some kind of hybrid form, because the horns, and it almost looks like he's got scales on the one arm, but nope, that's his human form, and we're about to see his man-beast form. So I'm super excited to see that, and I'm sure that gives Kaido even another boost in power that we haven't seen yet. So I'm so stoked to see that, and it most likely will be highlighted next week. But yeah, One Piece, great chapter this week for sure. And now we will move on to My Hero Academia. I gotta say, guys, My Hero Academia I've not highlighted all that much very recently, but this chapter definitely deserves it. This was a huge chapter for MHA. First of all, the stuff at the beginning with civilians taking up arms against villains, and it's like almost street warfare going on, and the destruction that causes because they're not trained to handle this kind of thing. That was super interesting. I loved seeing that the fallout of that, and how that affects the society. This chapter was very interesting. That one, samurai looking hero resigning, really going into retirement because he's just old, and I mean that makes sense, but and everybody hating him for it, saying he's running away, he's being a coward. And so I think that there's maybe no image that best depicts this better than the statue of All Might with the thing across, the board across his chest that says "I am not here," or not here, something like that. Because his catchphrase was "I am here," so it's definitely very interesting to see the world of My Hero Academia go in this direction, because we've lived in a world so far that was dominated by heroes. Villains were kind of skeptical to attack things because the heroes were always there and ready to fight. So to see it this way is a little tough, to say the least, for sure. But not only that, this chapter contained a ton of stuff. We move on to Endeavor, right? So Endeavor, we get to see in the hospital, have this full breakdown, right? And it was sad. It was really sad. First of all, I love that this is where Endeavor's character has gone. That makes a lot of sense to me. I knew they were trying to redeem him, and this is an awesome way to do it, because he has this breakdown, and then this, maybe one of the funniest moments in the whole show to me, was where Shoto like walks in on him crying and then just leaves because he's so awkward about him crying. That was super funny to me. And obviously Endeavor in tears, and I love the part where he's like, my heart, and then Rei, the mother of the Todoroki family, comes in and is like, what about your heart? And she's like, we need to talk. So what I love about this is we, as the audience, we can see how genuine Endeavor is, and we feel how genuine he is, how sorry he is about the mistakes he's made in raising his family and in nurturing them. We can see that, right? And we believe him. But the Todoroki family doesn't. Like, and as you would in real life, this is how it looks, right? So Endeavor's not a totally evil guy, right? He's not a totally good guy, and neither is his family. And so the way that relationship has to be rebuilt is super slow, and there's not going to be a lot of sympathy from Rei towards him. I'm so glad that Horikoshi didn't just make them like make up right here and say, it's going to be okay, we're going to be a family again. I'm glad that it's still a struggle and that we're still going to have to climb, and I hope to see that happen throughout the coming chapters. But this was I think a very influential chapter, especially if you're a big Endeavor fan or a big Todoroki family fan at large. This is a big chapter, and I have a feeling the next chapter will also be a big chapter for the Todoroki family. But yeah, I had to highlight it because it's just monumental. That was monumental to me. It was one of the biggest moments in the manga for sure. Which will bring us to the next highlight, which is Black Clover. Another great Black Clover chapter this week. We got a little bit about like the two demon monster things, and we got the one attacking the Clover, or the Clover Kingdom, right? And so he's charging the castle, and we get all this fighting's going on, and I didn't really have a whole lot to say about this chapter, but what I did like is I totally forgot about, and I've already forgotten his name again, but the wizard that uses the scales, the judgment magic, he was so cool when he was introduced, and I totally forgot about him. So he came back and he helps Julius, the wizard king. He helps him fight the demon back, and we got to see Julius as an adult again, which is super cool. And he tries to, he's trying to use his time magic to delay this demon, and then he turns back into a kid at the last second. He's not going to be able to stop the demon, and right then Asta comes back on the scene and is ready to go, using his anti-magic. I love that it was like, in this world magic is everything, and then it shows Asta, he's back and he's got that sword taking out that giant attack. So I loved seeing that. It was a great chapter. It was a great chapter to read of Black Clover. Very exciting, very fast-paced. I do have a couple questions about whether some of the line work was pretty sketchy. It almost looked like the chapter was not quite finished, illustration-wise. But it could also be just that he was trying to make the effect of the attack so drastic. So it could be that, but either way, phenomenal Black Clover chapter. I have no real problems with it, and I definitely wanted to highlight it this week. And so that will bring us to the next manga that I want to highlight, Phantom Seer. I really am a big Phantom Seer fan. I don't get a whole lot of opportunities to highlight it, but this week was one of those times where I did get the ability to highlight Phantom Seer. Really, I don't have a whole lot to say about this manga, except that it did the whole horror, haunted house thing, creepy feeling very well. Those dolls, like, looking out at them were super creepy. This whole little maybe mini arc of the dollhouse thing is going to be very interesting to me. All of the stuff that we learned about this place this week was creepy, and so I'm excited to look forward. I'm excited to see what comes of this. I think that this manga is great at the kind of like horror, more grotesque aspect of doing manga like this. Is kind of like scary monster mystery thing. So, I mean, with that in mind, I think that this chapter was a great example of it. And of course, I think in the future I'm so glad that Kenma is here, and we're gonna get to see Kenma shine. Kenma is one of my favorite characters in this manga. I love his Tengu. I love how he fights. So I'm really excited to get to see him try and save Aibetsu and Iori. So I can't wait to see that. I really didn't have a whole lot to say about Phantom Seer this week, other than it was really cool. I really liked it, and I'm excited for next week to see Kenma really do his stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much all I had for Phantom Seer. But I also want to highlight Ayakashi Triangle. Another one I don't get to highlight that often, but this week definitely deserved it. The Ayakashi they fought this time was really cool. I love his like decay wind thing. That was really cool. But what was even cooler, what I really want to highlight this chapter for, is Garaku turning on him, using that giant squid, and that was really cool. And then there's this one panel where you get to see almost like an Orochimaru like evil level on Garaku's face, and I really liked as he's explaining that he has gained the notoriety to be more powerful than the Ayakashi that they were fighting, and that was really cool, I thought. As well as, we get to hear at the end that he was in love with Suzu's former, her former reincarnation. So very interesting. A lot of events, play out very well. Of course, we've seen that girl talking with Suzu, or at least I assume we have. So it was a very interesting chapter. It was a very cool Garaku chapter. Made me like him way more than I ever have. So I love that. I love seeing that. And so, yeah, no, great chapter for sure. I really loved seeing it. But that brings us to my last highlight this week, which is Dr. Stone. Now, I really liked Dr. Stone this week. I thought it was really good. And another manga that I don't highlight all that often. What I really liked about this is I've said this before, but I always like when Dr. Stone teaches us things about our real world that are relevant. And so this week we learned the kind of the gold pan effect is why we see some like places with natural reserves of minerals like Araxia, where they're going in South America. We see these minerals naturally occurring in places because of this gravitational effect, and I thought that was really cool. It was something that I actually didn't know before this. I don't know if public school has failed me or not, but I didn't really know, and so it was really cool for me to see that. Also, I love the fort that they've set up, that they've built. That was really cool. And their plan to fight Stanley. So this final battle is coming up. I'm very excited about the final battle, and their plan to have somebody just leave and just have like this giant, almost suicidal attempt where they, petrify the whole island. That is really good to me. I really like that. I think it's a cool plan. I hope it goes well. I'm sure that there will be hiccups, and of course they built the device to make sure that anyone could set it off at any time. Of course there will be hiccups, but I think overall it's a good plan, and I'm really excited to see how it plays out. But this chapter of Dr. Stone was a really good Dr. Stone chapter, so I had to highlight it. I had to let y'all know that I was definitely liking Dr. Stone this week. But that's all I got for you this week, guys. Thanks so much for listening to this video, and definitely subscribe to the channel. I bring you weekly newsletters every single week, along with usually a midweek video and probably the Pillow Fort podcast that we still got going on. We'll probably be getting back into that here pretty shortly, where we're going over the Promised Neverland. The next arc we're doing is the Goldie Pond arc, so be looking forward to that. But definitely like this video if you liked anything I had to say. Leave a comment down in the comment section. I'd love to interact with your comments. I always love doing that. So leave that down in the comment section. But until next time, this is Shonen Express signing off.